cause a manifestation of my being in the future. You will be asleep and dead. I will be there and watch over you. When you wake, I will not be able to move any part of you.
An eerie figure with a red face appears as a hijacking broadcast, making hundreds of people develop the locked-in syndrome, suddenly unable to move or communicate, only able to close their eyes. This phenomenon leaves the authorities baffled, but knowing it has something to do with the figure on the TV that hijacked the broadcast, they try to wipe any trace of it in order to prevent any further devastation. This all starts with a rerun episode of a show which ended in 2001, airing on August 13th, 2003, with this mysterious figure hijacking the broadcast. This leads to a town in Pennsylvania known as Ephrata, curate a media revolving around this phenomenon, which becomes known as the Boiled One phenomenon. Being highly confidential, the media is showcased warning the potential viewer to obtain earplugs, a pencil, a sheet of paper, and a standard Christian Bible open to Psalms 91:10. It continues to explain if any tangible words are heard, the viewers must put on their earplugs and turn to their paper and pen and write the following.
I can see this paper. I can see my hand. I can't hear the screaming of thousands. I can't hear the feast. I am a moving, breathing human being on planet Earth.
This clearly depicts the power of the broadcast and the strange sinister entity shown to how it psychologically manipulates people to believe such things to lose control over their minds and bodies. These sentences are a way to reinforce and prevent the viewers from losing the grasp of reality and who they are and where they are. But as soon as revealed, no matter what, the tangible words are not heard by the physical ears, but they are heard inside the mind. The words on the screen are even interrupted in a split second or in a frame, showcasing the following words.
I can't see this paper. I have no hand. I can hear the laughter of thousands. I can hear the feast. I cannot move, nor do I want to.
This shows how vulnerable any victim in presence of this entity truly is and if exposed to the hijacked broadcast. The following slide in the media depicts a drawing of a human with an upside-down cross in the mind, illustrating how unholy thoughts might invade one's mind. The media encourages the viewers to pray and recite Psalms 91:10, which reads, "No evil shall befall you, and no plague shall come near your dwelling." It's something recited in despair of not being able to overcome the traumatizing sounds heard in one's mind. The laughing and screaming of thousands, sounds of trumpets, the feast, and more. In case of carrying out this procedure, the targeted individual must call the authorities immediately in hopes of being administered amnestics to forget and possibly lead a normal life, but that is all one could hope for in the best case scenario. It all starts with a documentary-style local show in Pennsylvania which revolved around the explanation of woodland wildlife. The show debuted in 90s and stopped airing in 2001 after the lead narrator passes away. However, in 2003, the 13th episode of the show would rerun seemingly out of nowhere. That's when an anomalous broadcast with a horrifying figure with a red melted face appears, speaking in a warm yet deeply eerie manner which would cause some sort of a widespread phenomenon. The authorities refer to this figure from then on as Fen 228. The actual broadcast showed clips of real hospitals and bedrooms, even live feed from cameras, overlaying Fen 228's image. Despite Fen 228 speaking in English, many non-English speaking viewers reported understanding every word of it, as if this entity spoke in every language to the targeted viewer, as if it spoke directly to the viewer's mind. The curated media then goes on to explain it will display a shortened and heavily manipulated version of Fen 228 speaking, which, in reverse, says this.
Cause a manifestation of my being in the future. You will be asleep and dead. I will be there and watch over you. When you wake, I will not be able to move any part of you. When your doctors eventually find you, they will not see me. But you will, and I'll see you too. Forever, I'll see you.
This horrifying entity shares extreme resemblance to entities some might have seen during sleep paralysis episodes. It is a phenomenon where victims wake up finding themselves in their dark bedroom, unable to move or make any sounds, being fully awake and conscious, yet feeling as if they are dreaming. Many experience this without seeing any entity, but some have reported seeing a dark figure, typically demonic or otherworldly, standing in the corner of the room, observing them. This is something I have personally experienced and battled in my teenagehood, but luckily for me, I didn't see any figures or entities. But in the very beginning, it was by far one of the most terrifying experiences I ever had. This broadcast goes on to become known as Broadcast 813 as it was aired on August 13, 2003. Unfortunately, 530 residents in the southern Pennsylvania area happened to view this broadcast. Aside from clear discomfort, paranoia and anxiety Fen 228's presence brought onto the viewers, it bared other side effects which were long-lasting. Right after the broadcast, many people claimed that they could still see Fen 228's face in their mind, never leaving them, as if he is right there with them, only visible to them or even inside them, feeding on their spine, and that they hear its voice echoing in their minds, with some even reporting that they hear trumpets. This would continue on until they would fall asleep. This would only be the very beginning of their true suffering, which would last forever. On the following day, 14th of August, the North American Electric Organization is ordered by the Ephrata branch to disable all power grids local to the state of Pennsylvania for damage control and prevent further escalation. The outage not only disabled supply to Pennsylvania but also surrounding states and even parts of Canada, causing the Great Northeast Blackout of 2003, leaving 50 million people without power for several days. Ephrata branch tried to wipe any trace of the broadcast by even deleting any news or articles about the incident. They tried to blame the outage due to natural disaster and fallen trees, but unfortunately, it was already too late. 12 days after the broadcast, on 25th, the broadcast 813 would lead to 509 people developing pseudocoma, or in other words, locked-in syndrome, making them unable to move or speak, becoming fully paralyzed, apart from the ability to move their eyes, and blinking while being fully conscious. This corresponds to the claims one victim made that he saw the face of Fen 228 eating on his spine, which would lead to his paralysis. Despite the 509 victims of this outbreak not being able to speak, over 60 were interviewed after the government tries to investigate it. Most had unfavorable results, but one by the alias Job Zamperini, given by the government to protect his identity. Ephrata branch shows particular interest in interviewing Job as he was a war veteran being fluent in Morse code, making him an ideal candidate for the interview. After becoming a locked-in syndrome victim, his grandson takes a photo in his backyard which reveals Fen 228 is hunting his house, being present. Job goes on to explain Fen 228 would hurt him and possibly others close to him, ones who he cares about, if he would describe the entity and say what it tells him to others. In the recorded interview with Job, he explains in Morse code using the blinking technique that the face Fen 228 never left him after seeing it on TV. He goes on to explain the entity stands by the window and is horribly disfigured and burnt. He goes on to explain he constantly hears screaming of thousands and trumpets before falling asleep, as if being the doomsday. That's when the officer leaves, leaving Job Zamperini all alone when Fen 228 appears from the window, talking directly to him. He goes on a mysterious dialogue about trumpets playing in a happy way and the sky opening and the laughter of many. Of course, he refers to the screams and the happy trumpets being the horrifying sounds of the Day of Judgment. That's when an image of the sky opening is shown when the video is cut short, as further viewing could be dangerous. An image in the very beginning of the video displays a long uneven line, which is in fact the full body of Finn 228, which shows the sheer greatness of it, of how tall it is. Also, crooked arms and gooey moving parts of its body show the gruesome nature of it, as if in a way displaying the collected spines giving its length and the suffering victims trying to push out of it. Many comments on the original video on the Dr. Nowhere's channel have left many good theories, with some explaining the Japanese text on the video is a reference to Motsuhiro Watanabe, who was a war criminal torturing the prisoners of war, and one of his victims was Louis Zamperini, the alias given to the victim in the video. Therefore, it's a possibility that Finn 228 is a representation of war and death, or the bringer of the end of days, the doomsday. He goes on talking about the trumpet sounding and the laughter or screams of the thousands, which could be them dying and suffering. The creator himself wanted to originally base the story in Louis' hometown in Torrance, but changed it up, so the story most likely revolves around PTSD, war, torture, and death. The entity is known as the Boiled One, and he refers to screams as laughters, never leaving one's side, eating people's spines. Not having a spine or being spineless is used as a way to describe someone being scared or a coward, and paralysis or paralyzed often goes with fear. That one is paralyzed by fear. Therefore, Finn 228 could be the representation of fear or trauma, making one lose their spine, their courage, and become paralyzed with fear and an imminent feeling of death or an impending doom. The religious aspect of the story also could refer to the sheer vulnerability of victims who are left with no power or control but to pray for their fates to be decided or be improved. So essentially, Finn 228 is the psychological trauma in humans, paralyzing one from sheer terror and fear. What are your theories and thoughts about this ambiguous analog horror? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you folks for being here. As always, it's been your host R, and I will see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day.